So we have completed the introduction part, and now we'll start with the actual training part. Okay, so
Okay.
first of all, I had earlier emailed a persona card to you. So if you have that, then it's good enough. If you don't have that, then let me know. I will email that again to you. Um, the persona card, you can fill it up and then you can exchange it with your partner. Um, the purpose of there are two purposes of the persona card. Number one is you know that there is something like an index card. What you see here is an index card, which is normally used in Scrum. So just to get acquainted with the index card, the persona card has been given. So you can write your name, your email address, contact number, if there are any certifications that you've done, and then paste your photo, and then send it across to your partner.
So partner here is who?
So ideally, Mayuri could have been your partner if she would have joined, but incidentally, she has not joined. So that's not a problem. You can send your persona card to me, and I
Okay.
can be your partner till she joins.
Okay.
And I don't have my persona card right away, but you have the copy of the presentation in PDF format, so you can use that as a persona card.
Okay.
Okay. So going forward, let's do the body introduction, and we have a time box of 10 minutes. So which includes number one, you preparing your persona card, you sending it across to your buddy, and then we'll do the introduction part. So let's start the timer so that uh, basically this game, okay, let's understand the goal of this game. The goal of this game is you getting acquainted with the index card, how to use that, and then exchanging the index card, talking to each other, getting acquainted. That's
Mm-hmm.
the basic purpose of this game. And yeah, I forgot to say, it is also to get yourself acquainted with what is called as time box. So you need to understand what is time boxing, wherein time box is the maximum time that is allotted or allocated for a particular exercise or particular event. So let's start the timer. Okay, so we have 10-minute timer now. Start. Okay, time starts now. Okay, so since we do not have anybody else, here is Avdut's persona card that came to me. All right, Avdut, introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. This is Avdut Sarnaik, and I'm currently working with Arista Consulting for last 1 year, and I have completed Prince to Foundation as well as Practitioner for both the courses, as well as Six Sigma Green Belt. I have completed. Along with that, ITIL is also been done. I have also completed few other logistics and transportation management certifications online. But I have just, due to the time limitations, I was not able to fill up over here. So I have been into ERP I'm as a ERP consultant and been and doing consulting practices for last 11 years. and uh, mostly into the automobile industry. And and I think this is about myself. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Abdul. Okay, my name is Nikhil. I have started working with Arista Consulting for just about 2 or 3 months back. I have done quite a lot of certifications, which include, okay, time up. Okay, so we had a 10-minute timer and the time was up. So
Okay.
the first thing to understand is when there's a time box of 10 minutes, it is the maximum time that is given for a certain activity. Now we were given maximum 10 minutes wherein we had to first of all create our own persona card. We had to also um, send it across and then introduce ourselves. Now this became a very spontaneous thing for us. And 10 minutes is a long duration just for a simple persona card. I mean, not finding a photograph or whatever, that is a different story in itself. What we need to understand, the first thing is the time mark. Now, I started introducing myself and the buzzer went off, so I stopped. So, whatever I'm doing, I have to stop. The time is up. That's it. We are not going to go beyond the time. That is a basic thing that we have to understand of anything that we do in Scrum. It is 10 minutes is 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, you have to stop. So now what happens? Now I have got something unfinished. So my introduction was not completed. I just started. So now what to do? Should I increase the timing? The answer is no. Timing is not increased. If you remember in the introduction, we learned about the agile reverse triangle, where we said that the quality, time, and cost, we are going to keep it as fixed. What we are going to vary is we are going to vary the features or the functionality. So now what happened right now in this game? The time box was 10 minutes. It came spontaneously and we were not ready for it. We spent a lot of time trying to find a photo, trying to remember what all certifications did I do, and so many other things. Okay. Now within the given time box, how do I complete my task? Now in the persona card, what was important? Important was probably just your name. The photo was not so important. You could have pasted any photo. The certifications were not so important. You could have written just one or two, not trying to remember it, all of them. Probably whatever that came to the top of your mind, you just write it down and you email the persona card. Now, when you're doing the actual introduction, that time you may say something more. No one stops you. Typically, this is what happens when the user places the requirement. He gives you whatever is there on the top of his mind, and that becomes the requirement. There's no conversation that happens between the development team and the customer or the end user who's actually placing the requirement. The requirement in itself is not clear, and we say that we'll complete this by so and so time. We are unclear on the requirement. So when you have a time box, you have to do whatever is the most important. Like in this game, the importance was that I introduce myself to you and you introduce yourself to me. So barely just your name and maybe one or two certifications, that was more than sufficient. I mean, for writing down. During the introduction, yes, you can speak. So more time would have been for the face-to-face communication rather than actually writing down a detailed requirement. So here through this game we are highlighting following. Number one, the importance of a time box. That once the time is up, you have to stop. Even though you have got unfinished work, you have to stop because your time box has expired. Number two, now that you have a time box, you have to take up whatever is of more importance, higher priority. You have to understand the priority and then accordingly act. When the game says buddy introduction, so more importance was on introducing yourself to the other person rather than writing down something which doesn't really help. And lastly, from the user perspective, you understand that user gives you whatever is there on the top of his mind. The details you may still have to dig it. So before you commit something, you need to be clear as to what the requirement is. I mean, you don't have to be clear till the last level, but at least in order to estimate that whether I will be able to deliver this in the time box, whether this requirement is at a very large level or a very high level, or whether it is broken down into granular components and I will pick up certain components that I can deliver in this time box and I will deliver the other components in the next time. So this is what was wanted with this particular game. So remember, this is going to be there with us all the time, all through the training. The time box is always going to be there. The highest priority things or items is always going to be there. Now, normally, whenever you have a 1 hour meeting, you will observe that the meeting goes on for 1 hour. Things keep on expanding to occupy the entire time span. And if you don't stop, it still goes on overflowing. If you decide that it's a 1 hour meeting and you have specific things to accomplish, then probably you will chase that meeting in such a way that you will accomplish that within lesser time, lesser than 1 hour. So chasing the high priority things and setting up those as your specific goals is very important. So in Scrum, for each of the event or each of the activity that is undertaken, there is a specific goal that is set up, and based on that goal we have the time box, and we chase highest priority items to be finished in that time box. So you don't spend time on things which are not so important. So in the introduction, what we said was we try and do the documentation as minimum as required. So I mean, if there is a requirement which needs to be a lot of detailed, then you definitely write it down. But if you don't need that much detail in written, then you don't write it. Okay. So we have seen this manifesto during the introduction part. So what we say is we are uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others do it. Through this work, we have come to value. Now there are two sides of this. The bold ones is the left hand side and whatever is written after the word over is the right hand side. So they say individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, responding to change over following a plan. That is, while there is value in the items on the right, which is all these, we value the items on the left more. So we spoke about this in detail, just quickly going over this, that in Agile, we are not saying that processes are not important, tools are not important, or documentation is not important, or having a plan is not important. We do have plans. We do have release plan. We do have sprint plan. But like in traditional methodology, where we have a base plan, there's a Gantt chart, and someone keeps on tracking that, then you get a critical path, and so many other things. But in our case, what we are saying is we value the items on the left-hand side more. We acknowledge that there are things on the right-hand side which are very important. Like for example, we do Microsoft Excel. It's a tool. So we acknowledge that it is useful and we are going to use it. But we use it to the extent that we need it. We'll not make that our life. Okay. In case of comprehensive documentation, where they say that working software over comprehensive documentation. Now there is an exception here which I have already mentioned during the introduction part, that if it is some kind of a medical equipment or medicinal use where you need an extensive documentation for getting it approved from the authorities, then in such case that documentation is part of the deliverable. So that is also part of your working software. So in such cases, we are not saying that we will not do the documentation. It's essential. We have to do it and we'll do it. And we'll call that as a working software because that is essential. Otherwise, in normal IT projects where normally we write a very detailed functional spec, then we go still one more level down, write the low level technical specs, and so on and so forth. So we are not going to do that. We'll do the documentation as barely minimum as required. Then customer collaboration. Normally we collaborate with the customer at the starting when we are negotiating the contract, and then towards the end when we have to do the UAT. When we are doing the UAT, then again all the clauses of the contract that come into picture, saying that we said we'll only do this and now you're asking for more, and he says no, I already asked for this, you have misunderstood that. So then there is a gulf of evaluation that comes up, and then all the contractual points come into picture. So agile projects also have contract, but then they factor in all the uncertainties, and they know that probably there could be something more or something less, something different, something uncertain that needs to be built. So that contract enables for that. So in Agile, you keep on collaborating with the customer all the time, not just in the starting to negotiate the contract and towards the end when you have to do the UAT. Customer is continuously engaged throughout the project. And then responding to change over following a plan. So traditionally, we have a project plan, we try to follow that. We keep those activities in a sequence where you have the relationship of start to finish, finish to start, finish to finish, start to start, etc. And then whenever there is some changes that are requested for, it goes through a very big procedure of change control board. And that change control board is normally set up to not accept any changes. So whichever are the highest priority, without which you cannot live, such kind of changes make it to the final product. But here, whenever there are changes, you accommodate those changes. You may not accommodate them right away, but yes, you will handle those changes on the way. So that's the manifesto, the 4 values of Agile. Then you have the 12 principles, which we have already seen. I will not go into the details. We have already seen this multiple times. I mean, in the introduction part, and we have referred a couple of principles during the introduction. Okay, we'll play this game probably tomorrow where you poll for top 3 principles. I don't have the polling form right away, but I will publish that form tomorrow when we are continuing.
Okay.
So, we'll quickly take this overview of the Scrum methodology and then we'll stop here and we'll do the poll tomorrow first and then we will continue the class. So in Scrum, first of all, you have the scope. From the scope, you get a product backlog. Product backlog is nothing but you get the extensive list of all the requirements at a very high level. Okay, I want a sales order. That's it. Now, what does the sales order include? We do not know. So that is the product backlog. Then you design something. Okay. Based on that, you get into the sprint planning meeting, which gives you a sprint backlog, which is essentially a subset of the product backlog. Then you go through the sprint when you have some automation, execution, and on daily basis, you have a daily stand-up meeting or daily scrum. At the end of the sprint, you have the sprint review meeting, which is kind of a UAT or demo to the customer. And then you have the sprint retrospective, where the development team or the team meets and they find out in this entire circle what went right, what went wrong, what can we do better, etc. And finally, you may be delivering a part of the software which is usable or releasable. So this is the Scrum methodology in general. Okay, I've just run through this. I've not gone through the details right now because of the time box that we have. So we'll get into the details tomorrow when we start the class. Before that, we'll do the poll. So for tomorrow, go through the 12 principles of Agile. And I'll open the poll so that you can select whatever principles that you think are important, and quickly we will speak about why do you think a certain principle is important. I mean the top 3 that you think is important, and then we'll continue. Okay. So we'll stop here for now.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, and see you tomorrow same time.
Sure.